this, like, okay, like the Lord healed me of my sickness, and then lots of things started to shift in my relationship with him, and blah, 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 blah on the podcast. But you were out of our whole, like, circle of family and of people, you were actually the first one to get healed of anything like physical.
Right.
I think as far as what you've told me, you weren't just kind of like, okay, Lord, I ask that you heal this right now.
I didn't ask at all.
No. And so, like, because you had celiac.
I had celiac.
Like, full force.
Like, every time I ate anything with wheat, I was in bed for hours, sleeping, nauseous. I felt like I had taken some sort of sleeping pill or something. It literally made me nauseous and lethargic.
Yep.
And it had started kind of slowly where I would get that, and I thought it was, like 8 years ago. And I had done allergy tests, and it had come back, but I didn't have insurance at the time.
Right.
And my husband made pancakes one morning, and I ate one pancake and had to go to bed.
I was like, how long did you sleep?
Like 2-3 hours.
Yep.
And I
Hard.
got up, and I called my sister sobbing. And my sister was diagnosed with celiac years and years, it's probably been
a while.
12, 13 years now. And I called her just sobbing, and she's like, it's just, I had the exact same thing, just stop.
Yep.
And so I had to stop. And I stopped eating, all gluten. The symptoms all went away.
Yep.
And it was weird for me. I don't think I was like so severe that if anything with wheat even touched my food, I would get sick. But then there was times cross-contamination would get me sick.
Right.
And then, when I didn't realize it, that's when I would get sick. My daughter went and got me what she thought was naked tacos with nothing. It was just eggs and sausage and cheese. And she thought, she can eat this. And she got them. It was like from Taco Bell. And I took like 2 bites, and within minutes I was like, what's in this taco? And I pulled it up, Googled it, looked at the ingredients, and the nacho cheese sauce that was in it had wheat in it, and I didn't even realize. And and she's like, I poisoned my mom, and I was like,
I'll see you in a couple hours.
It'll be fine.
Yeah,
make sure the house doesn't burn down.
Right, exactly.
And I could eat certain things that had some wheat in it, like some taco seasonings, and I figured that would make it never affected me. But then somebody stirred my stuffing at a Thanksgiving dinner that I had gluten-free stuffing.
And you're the first one to pass out.
And it was at the church, and I was sick. I had to leave.
Yeah, it's like I have to go lay down.
So I'm sitting there in like a ball on the floor waiting to, so we could all leave. Going, I'm gonna die, And that was the last major episode I had was November. Okay. So the following summer it was last summer, we were doing a revival. It was in June. And we had done a 40-day fast beforehand. And I had done a partial fast where I fasted like breakfast and lunch because, doing a full fast for 40 days with children,
that's not safe for anybody.
I have yet to go into a full 40-day water only fast. I don't know that and so I was partially fasting throughout the whole 40 days, and we come to the service that I actually wasn't expected to be at. It was the Saturday night service, and I was supposed to be doing shooting a wedding.
Oh, okay.
And the wedding was over early. Like, I was done. I got there just as worship was ending. It was an earlier wedding, like earlier afternoon. And so by like 6, 7, I was done. I was there at made it to the revival.
Cool.
And, sat through the service. And in the evening, or at the altar call, my daughters were on stage. My older 2, 3 daughters, they were doing worship that night. And they were doing prayers for healing, and they were asking people to come up. And I wasn't thinking about me, and I'm looking at my daughters, and I'm like, you guys need to go get prayer. Because they both fight so hard. I was like, just, you get prayer because...
Right. It can't hurt, right?
Yeah. You guys... And I'm like, you guys need to get down there. And I'm kind of motioning, and they're like, putting their hand up, going, no, don't worry about it, Mom, And so I...
Like, Mom, chill.
Yeah, whatever, Mom. We're doing worship right now. We're trying to
We're busy.
Yeah. And so I went back, and I was in the back of the... it was a tent revival, so I'm in the back of the tent. And, I do a lot of the media, so if I needed to, I could hop on the computer and help or whatever. And I'm kind of sitting there with my granddaughter, and I remember praying, God, they just need to go get prayer. And I was kind of frustrated. Like, they could get off the stage, at least one of them at a time to go and get prayer.
A tag team. Okay, you go.
Something, I just felt like, because the altar service was moving and it was, flowing and God was doing stuff. And I'm sitting there and I was, summer, it's June, but it was like 90 degrees. It was hot. And especially in that tent, we had giant fans trying to keep people cool and down in waters. And I got chilled. And I heard, you first. Yeah. And I felt it. Like, I felt like this huge cold flash and this presence of God. And then it was gone. And as, it was gone and the service was ending. I'm jumping up, trying, instantly my mind goes to, I couldn't dwell on it because things were happening that I needed to go and do.
Yep.
That I was jumping on the computer to stop the live stream and I didn't think much about it. Mm-hmm. I was like didn't think that I imagined it, but I didn't rationalize it or whatever.
Right. I was like, what was that?
Well, the next day, I had my grandson, and we went to, we had service in the morning, and after, because of where we were out in the middle of nowhere for this tent revival, there's no restaurants, so we were serving food for everybody.
Yep. And
I went up to, figure out what I could eat, and they had burgers, and they had them all wrapped with the buns and everything. And I'm like,
and they're done. Yep.
Yeah, I can't eat that. And God said, yes, you can. And I said, I can't eat that. And I'm like, no, because if I get sick, I've got this, 1-year-old here, 18-month-old or whatever, right, that I've got to take care of. And I can't pass out for 2 hours from taking care of a toddler, And so I didn't eat it. I picked up like a hot dog that hadn't touched,
Give me one that's not done anything yet.
I didn't eat it, and I ate some chips and whatever, and none of it really healthy. And then the revival was over, and we come to a Monday, and I watched my grandson Sunday through Thursday at the time, and I waited until he got home, and I'm trying to figure out dinner, and I didn't really want to cook, It'd been a busy weekend. I was tired. It was a Monday.
Right, like I'm over it.
And so I was like, I'm just gonna make some chicken nuggets or something for my, my daughter. And I was like, okay, I need to figure out something for me. And I was like, I wonder if I should try a nugget. They're breaded. They're not gluten-free nuggets.
They're full on
Tyson breaded nuggets.
Full on gluten nuggets.
And I was like, I'm gonna eat one and see what happens. Because if I get sick, the grandson's gone home. I can just
nobody's
go to
bed.
Gonna die. Yeah, I'll just go to bed and pray. I don't feel like horrible for the next few days.
Yep.
And so I ate the nugget, which was not having a real nugget for a while was really good.
Oh, dude, it's a thing.
I ate the nugget and I waited, and nothing happened. I was like, I felt fine, and I'm like, oh, okay. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna push it. I'm not going to push it. Maybe it's a fluke, I'm not listening to what God done. And so the next day, I have to feed the toddler, so I make him nuggets. Nuggets, I don't know what the deal was.
Dude, nuggets are great.
So I made him nuggets. And I was like, okay, should I try this with him here? And so I had 2 nuggets. I'm so brave. I had 2, and nothing happened.
No judgment from me, especially now.
I was like, I should have been like, God, heal me. I can do this, and just eat all the bread. No, I couldn't do it. So the following day, and I told my husband that night, and I'm like, what do you think? He goes, I don't want to see you get sick, but if you feel God did this. And so the next day, lunchtime came around, and I looked at my teenager, and I said, let's go eat. And we went to a restaurant that's in town, and I was like, I'm getting a patty melt. And if I get sick, I get sick. But I'm
full on.
A patty.
Yep.
I always said if I died from celiac, it would be death by crazy bread or something.
Ooh, yum.
And so I ordered the patty melt because rye bread. I haven't had that in years and years. Right?
Wheat, barley, rye. Yep, that's gluten.
And so I ate half this patty melt. I'm in the restaurant, like sobbing, like tears are running down my cheeks, and my 14-year-old's going, Mom, don't cry. Really, you're embarrassing. But I knew at that point. I knew it was healed. It was gone. Yeah. I mean, I could eat this sandwich, and And so I have eaten a lot of bread since then and pasta to the point where God's like, stop it.
Okay, we get it. I'm glad that you're excited, but let's tone it down a little bit.
Like it became a coping. I started calling it my stressed garlic bread. When I was stressed out, I wanted garlic bread. It's like, okay, that's not healthy. But yeah, so yeah, that. But he didn't tell me you're healed. He didn't say, I didn't have people, anybody praying for me at that moment. I wasn't even praying for myself. I was praying for my daughters, and he said, you first. And so I'm standing on that means not me only.
No.
That me first.
Yeah.
And that means healing is there and going to come for my loved ones that are sick. For... I don't know what it'll look like. I don't know when it'll happen or how it will happen. Yeah. I'm sure of one thing. It will not be what I expect because God never does what I expect or think.
Exactly.
And but I believe he said me first. That's all I heard. Audibly heard. Like one of those, do you look behind you to see if somebody's, there? And there's only a handful of times where I've audibly heard a voice of, that's God. And so... yeah, I'm standing on that. And I'm believing that my warriors who have fought so valiantly, God's going to reward it in some way.
Yeah.
I don't know how, I don't know when, but I believe he will. And I'm going to stand on it.
Oh, man, that's good. I remember the first time I heard that. Because I didn't know. I didn't know what happened. And you got up to speak somewhere, just like give a testimony or whatever. And you were like, blah, 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 blah. God healed my allergy. I hate running. I think it's so dumb. I think running is so, like, if you like to run, that's fine. But I do not. I don't understand it. I'm like, why would I run there if I can just walk? I like walking.
Yeah, I can walk a lot.
I have never wanted to run laps in a church so hard in my life, and I couldn't because I was on the keyboard.
Right.
I was stuck. I was like, I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry because it was so cool. It's like almost like this little ripple effect.
Yeah.
And I had something similar.
Right.
over the past month.
And when you came to me before the service where you ended up getting healed, and you came to me and said, I think God's doing this, and I said, then you better be obedient. It was because
that's exactly what you said. Yeah.
I knew. I know what he can do.
Yeah.
And disobedience is will he follow through if you just disobey? If he's told you do something, he has a purpose.
Right. He's not just doing it to like be entertained.
Yeah.
Like he has a reason as to why he's telling you to go do this.
Right.
And
let's see. Fear holds so many of us back. And that doesn't mean that, I thought God said this and I did it and nothing happened. Something always happens, even if it's not what we expect. Even if it's a stretching of our faith. Even if it's, he now knows we will stand when we're afraid.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to think that, I feel like I want to be healed and God didn't heal me, so, God lied. No, I don't think God lies. He can't lie.
He can't.
So
literally, he can't.
It doesn't mean you necessarily heard wrong. No. It just means maybe
it doesn't look like
it doesn't look like you think it looks.
Right. And sometimes I feel like it never does look how we think it's either supposed to or how we want it to or anything like that, because sometimes that takes God out of the equation. Yeah. And that takes God out of the processing of it, and it takes God out of the picture.
Yeah, like we could anticipate what he's going to do then.
Right, I'm like, okay, well, God's going to do this, and then I'm going to go do this, and he's going to heal me, and I'm going to be symptom-free. Yeah. And all of this. No. Yeah. Please, no.
And it's not like, okay, I think there's a misunderstanding of healing doesn't mean all your physical everything is wonderful. I still struggle with my weight. I'm still struggling with, making sure that my thyroid is working. I'm still, there's still other things.
There's other, I had problems before this thing,
right. He didn't say you're healed and you're going to go back to the body you had at 20 and, like you didn't, have all these children and abuse yourself with poor eating. There's still consequences, right. To the health choices you made. But if he's healed something, then he's healed it. Yeah. It doesn't mean he's healed everything.
No. No.
It doesn't mean there won't be, everything's just rosy from there on out.
No. And I actually had to remember that.
Yeah.
After, it was like maybe 2 months after, and like my labs were clean. I was symptom free. I was like, heck yeah. Like, this is awesome. Like, look at what Jesus be doing.
Yeah, the pictures you sending me. I'm cold. I'm never cold.
I was
like putting
never.
on jackets.
I was literally never cold unless I was like deathly ill.
Right.
I wouldn't even like wear a winter coat because I was hot all the time.
I have a
I would
thyroid
have
disorder.
hot
I have been
flashes.
cold for 20 years.
Like I had hot flashes all the time, and people were like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, I need to go step outside. Give me a second. And I'm cold now, like on a normal basis.
And this isn't fun.
I was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Wait a minute, I'm cold." And then I would sit for a second. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm cold." Like that's so cool.
Please don't sing Elsa.
But you being obedient and you walking into healing, even it didn't look the way you thought it was going to.
I didn't
at
even
all.
expect.
Weren't even asking for it, really.
Yeah.
That encouraged me. 6 months ago, that encouraged me a couple weeks ago. Because like a month ago, the Lord was like, "Hey, you can eat that sandwich," and I was like, "No, I can't. I was like, I have to work tomorrow." Because like the last time I poisoned myself with gluten, and I went gluten-free because of my PCOS.
Yeah, right.
Because gluten can cause inflammatory things, and PCOS also deals with inflammatory blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So, long story short, for nobody medical, it's just, it benefits you.
Right.
And it was going to benefit me and all of that. In going gluten-free, I developed an allergy. And that doesn't actually happen to everybody, apparently. I completely gave up gluten, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just eat something. I slept for hours, and I felt so off for like 3 or 4 days. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't have like a decent conversation with somebody because there was just so much like fog and just like ugh. Mm-hmm. And the last time I poisoned myself with gluten, I had to call off work. I could not get out of bed. I couldn't think straight. I remember like my dad tried to talk to me, and I just kind of looked at him. Because like I couldn't even form words.
Right.
It was that bad.
And it's fast. And it hits.
And once it starts to hit, there's nothing
you can do about it.
There's nothing to stop
There's not a magic pill that will take away the allergy like a Benadryl. There's it just hits you.
Yeah, and you have to deal with it until you're done.
It works its way through your system.
Exactly. And it was whatever. Like I got used to buying gluten-free stuff, and it was my life. I couldn't eat here, but I knew I could eat that one thing at that one restaurant, that one place.
Yeah.
It was whatever. And it was like a month ago at the end of a revival service. These revival services, man.
I'm telling you, I am anticipating what the summer's going to bring.
Oh, man. It was at the same service. Mm-hmm. Like what, a month ago or whatever? I don't remember. In Monon.
In Monon. Where everybody had to confront my lack of joy.
Yes, we were like, hey, listen. And then God was like, well, we have stuff to deal with you too, but okay. They catered in Subway because it's literally right there. And it's easy, sandwiches, whatever. And I'm looking and I'm trying to figure out what can I have. I'm starving. It's like 8:00. And God was like, you can eat that. And I was like, do you not know that tomorrow's Monday? That's literally what I said.
Don't you know what day it is?
Kind of. I was like, look, I know that you're like omnipresent in time and out of time, but like, don't you know tomorrow's Monday, which means I have to work. I have to drive an hour to work. I can't afford to call off.
Right. I can't eat that and then be sick all night.
Right. Exactly. And so I think I ate some chips, and I think I like maybe took like a piece of meat or something off.
And I think there was some fruit.
Yeah. And I was like, whatever. And then it was like 2 weeks later where that kind of thing happened again.
Yeah.
And again, I had to work the next day, and I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not making myself sick. No. It wasn't even like It was absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea what you're talking about, God. Like, I know what I'm doing here.
I took a bite of a nugget as my first test, and nobody was around so that I wouldn't get sick and have responsibilities.
And it was a couple weeks after that. It was a Wednesday, and I had a very important meeting that night. Mm-hmm. I was nervous about the meeting, and I was like, okay, I have to be on my A game. I'm gonna drink like some caffeine before. I need to be like on it. I need to be ready, like questions, anything. Right. And I went across the street to a restaurant, went through the drive-thru, and they had gluten-free wraps. And I had been there before, never had a problem. And I was like, cool. I'm in my car just eating because I was just like, I need to eat a second. And I couldn't find my receipt to like just make sure it was gluten-free or whatever. And I opened it and I was like, well, that's different. Like that looks different. But like I got a different kind and I got a different size. And so I was like, okay.
Maybe it just looks different because I didn't order what I usually do.
Right. I didn't get my usual. I got something different, new. I got a small instead of a medium, whatever. And so I ate it and I was like, why is this so soft? And
because if you don't know, gluten-free tortillas are not like as soft as the regular flour tortillas.
They're not. They break a lot easier.
Yeah. It's not the same. God bless those who are trying, but it's just not the same.
There's still some room for improvement.
Yeah. Some of it, yes. Some of the gluten-free foods, they're not the same.
Yeah. And so I ate it because I was legitimately like starving. I was like, if I don't eat, I'm gonna be not nice.
Right.
And so I'm going to eat. And then I finished, and I was like, I really don't know if that was gluten-free or not. But, I mean, whatever. I found my receipt. And literally the second I stopped, like, I ate the whole thing. There was no going back. And they gave me a whole wheat wrap.
Oh, no.
Entire wheat. There is no not wheat about it. It is full-on gluten. And I started, like, panicking.
I know. I got the Snapchat.
And I was like, well, either this is going to make me sick, or maybe I was supposed to listen a month ago. But I wasn't even worried about being tired. It was, I have a meeting tonight. I cannot be out of my mind. Like, this is not happening. And with, I think our bodies kind of work similar with this. We would know in about an hour.
I would know in minutes.
Really?
Yeah, I would know within 10 minutes.
I would know within about an hour.
Yeah. Within 10 minutes, I would know. And
I would feel it, and I'd be like, I need to go lay down.
Yeah. I would instantly get a little nauseous and feel dropped.
Yep, exactly.
Within just like 10 minutes.
Lethargy of just like, and so I started praying. I was like, God, you know how important this meeting is tonight. This is not just a whatever. Like there's ministry things involved. There's announcements involved, and I need to be kind of on my A game. And, well, this just happened, and I don't know what to do. And the Lord very clearly said, do you trust me?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, yeah, but this is different.
It's different. This isn't the same.
Right. I was like, this has nothing to do with anything else. This is different, okay? And
then you wait.
Kind of, yeah.
In fear, but wait, like, anxiously waiting for symptoms to start.
Right, and this was like at like 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, by the time I leave work at 4:30, I will 100% know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do my normal afternoon work things, and I drank a lot of water. I was dehydrated anyway, but I was like, okay, just in case
I can flush it, maybe try and flush some of the symptoms
whatever,
out. Yeah.
Perfect, I got this.
Yeah.
And 4:30 came around, I was like, I don't feel that bad, whatever. Well, then it probably wasn't actually wheat then. Is literally what I went with. I was like, then there was no way that was actually a wheat wrap.
Yeah.
That was a misprint of a receipt. And I'm driving home, and I just felt the Lord just be like, are you serious?
Are you getting this? I mean, seriously, I told you a month ago.
Right. And I was like, well, I was like, well, what do I do now? I don't want to overdo it and like try again. But then like I only told like a handful of people because I was like, okay, either we're going to be celebrating in a couple days or we're going to be deeply praying that I come out of this okay. And so that night I went to my meeting. They had food and stuff, and I was like, I mean, I felt fine, like better than fine. Like right. I had no symptoms whatsoever.
Right.
And I was like, there is no way. So I'm gonna try it again. I found they had Chex Mix.
Ah. And it wasn't the rice gluten-free one.
No, it was the full-on gluten cheddar whatever. And I was like, well, I'm gonna just pour me a bowl of this. And that will definitely trigger something, right? So I eat it. I go to bed. And I slept kind of hard that night, but I had also been up for like 16 hours.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, well, either that was the gluten or I was tired. Maybe it was both. I'm going to try something again today.
We keep testing what God has already told us.
I know. He's like, I already said this. Stop testing this.
I literally remember after eating, the second, the second chicken nugget, like the next day, God, you gonna go for 3 today? That's the thought that went through my mind, and I knew that wasn't my thought. And I was sitting there thinking, no, we're going for a patty melt,
right? And so I go into work, and I'm like, what am I gonna test with today? Because I was like, okay, it's been a couple days, it's all or nothing. Yeah. And God's just like, okay, let me know when you believe me or not, And he was so patient with me. Thank God. And I work in an office, and so people bring in stuff all the time. It was a day where we didn't really have any interviews scheduled. It was more of just kind of a get paperwork done day, and someone brought in pastries and stuff. And I walked in and I was like, am I supposed to eat one of these? And I was like, I'm gonna go for it. So I probably ate too much of it, but I went full force. And I remember I was texting you. I was like, okay, this happened, but I don't know if it's okay or not. So I'm gonna try something else. But then I don't know. And then
yep. And I'm like, you would have reacted by now. And
then I was probably after day 3, I was like, it's gone. Wait, is this for real?
Yeah. And it does take a little bit to process. I mean, when you've suffered from something for years, when it's not there, you're like,
it's weird.
Yeah. To the point now that every time you came over after I was healed, I would be cooking, and you're like, "What you making?" And I'd be like, "This, want some?" And you're like, "I can't eat that."
I remember you're like, "I made biscuits and gravy," and I was like, "Well, that's nice for you."
I was like, "I'm sorry," because I remember that of, "Oh, that sounds good, and I can't eat that." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "I just did that to them, and I didn't mean to," Yeah.
But again, I wasn't asking for that, and. It was just another cool God thing where God was like, hey, I did this. And I'm like, no, you didn't.
One of the thoughts that went through my head, and I can't tell you for sure what God's going to do, but one of the thoughts that went through my head is one of the things that has kept me from even thinking about doing mission work and stuff like that is because you got to eat whatever they give you.
Yeah.
And if you can't eat it, then what? And I'm like, bread is a staple worldwide. And while a lot of people outside of America, they leave America and they go to these other countries and they can eat bread, that's, because of how it's grown there.
Yep.
There's no glyphosate and there's no, but I was like, but if it's genuine celiac, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
And I was like, what am I supposed to eat? Am I just going to starve anytime I try to do something,
See, you're going to do that fast.
Yeah. You're gonna do the fast. I told you.
I done told you.
And now I'm thinking, now that opened a door. I can maybe do some of this now.
That's so cool.
Something I didn't even consider as an option because I wouldn't be able to. And in some countries, if you don't eat what they give you, it's an insult.
Right. That's a no-go.
Yeah. So do I? If God leads me to go to one of these places and I can't eat the food, and
that's and
how's that represent him well?
Exactly. They in a lot of countries, it's they cook for you. That's how they show hospitality.
Right.
And that's a legit thing. You eat their food and you do all the things, right? And so you not eating it, it's really disrespectful.
And bread is worldwide. This bread is the staple.
I don't care where you go, they got bread.
Everywhere you go, they have bread.
They got bread, some kind of bread.
And if I can't eat even the bread, then what?
Right. It's
so one of the thoughts that went through my head after being healed was well, I can eat the bread wherever I need to go.
That's so cool.
Whether it's good for me or not necessarily.
I can be respectful.
But I can. It opened a door of me knowing. I don't have to fear. Oh well, this chicken sandwich is breaded, or this is they've got bread or wheat in their sauce, or I don't have to worry about that now because he took care of it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know where he's going to take that, but I know
he's going to use that.
Yeah. At some point, I believe there's going to be a point to it.
Yeah.
Other than just me enjoying all the bread.
Right. And that's, it's just I don't know why he healed that for me. Yeah. After my PCOS got healed, I was like, well, if he can heal that, he can take away the allergy I got from it. So, I mean, if he wanted to, it was whatever. Right. I didn't really care. literally the weekend before I got healed of the gluten allergy, I spent $200 on gluten-free groceries.
I know. And I remember after getting healed, I gave you bags of the gluten-free stuff I didn't eat anymore.
You were like, well, here you go.
Here, save some money. I'm
Right?
going to go buy real stuff.
It worked for both of us, right?
Yeah.
But it was just a sweet thing that God did for me, you know, and like I cried about it for days.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, thanks.
Yeah, I was just, you just kind of sit there in almost like disbelief for a while.
Kind of, I'm like, almost like a, but why? I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for this, and I really didn't do anything to earn it.
Right.
You know, because for me, I'm like, I have to earn love. I have to earn things. I have to do something to get something back. And God's like, actually, that doesn't work that way. I don't work that way
in my kingdom. Yeah.
I just do because I love you.
Right.
Because I want to. Because you're my kid.
Yeah. And even and that's probably wrong to say, well, then, you know, the being healed of the gluten allergy means I can go and to do other things for him. I don't think he necessarily did it for those reasons. Whether that works out that way, okay, great.
Then awesome.
But he did it.
At the root of it?
Yeah. I mean, he did it for me. He did it for you because he wanted to.
Yeah.
And because it was the timing he wanted us to.
Right.
For me, I think he also did it as a demonstration to my children, to you, to anybody else that, you know, we see healings or we hear about healings, but maybe it's not personal. It's not someone that's close to us. It's not someone we love, or, you know, or we can find a way to rationalize it in our head.
Right. I'm like, okay, well, they're desperate enough over there in this third world country. They see healings in third world countries all the time.
Right.
Because, you know, and I'm like, okay, so it's whatever. But like when it was you, like that went through my whole body.
Yeah. Because
like,
it's someone, you know, I watched her not be able to eat. We go out to eat, you know.
Yep.
I've watched her have to go to bed, you know, like my daughters. They watched me have to go to bed because I was sick and not, you know, from eating something.
Yep.
You know, and so for me to, you know, because I instantly thought, oh, people are going to think, oh, she never really had it. I was like, those close to me knew because, you know, they accidentally poisoned me a couple times. So, you know, and to me, I mean, I'm at a point where I don't really care what other people think. No, I never really had a doctor diagnosis the way you did with your PCOS because for so long I didn't have insurance. And then by the time I got insurance, it was like, this was just a fact of life. And they just put it in my chart.
Yep.
You know, it's like, nope, if I eat it, I'm sick.
Right.
And so my kids know.
Yeah.
And my family, you know, they knew what was going on. And so the fact that I can eat wheat and God told me you first.
Yeah.
To me, I think that was, you know, a demonstration to show them that he can do it. Because I don't think you say you believe it and you
I'm like, God heals, that's great.
Yeah, God heals, but until you see it in a personal way, until you know, it's out there somewhere, but it's until it's someone that you love.
Yeah.
You know, or someone that you're close to, someone you see every day and you see God doing something. When he does something, then you're like, wait, how does this, you know, if he can do something small, you know, like heal celiac for my mom, he can heal me of this chronic illness. Yep. He can heal me of this depression. He can heal me of even this cancer. He can heal it because, you know, and sometimes I think just believing he can is half the battle.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You know, we say we believe it because the word says we believe it and because we hear about it, but when it comes close to home.
Oh yeah.
We gotta, do we believe it or not? We have to know what we stand on.
When it's really a decision of do I or don't I?
Yeah.
You know, and like I've said before, like when I got healed, it wasn't like my faith was at an all-time high. I promise you I had maybe a quarter of a mustard seed. I was like,
you had a quarter of a mustard seed and I was arguing with him. So it was like, what a pair.
I was like, what the heck are you doing? Like there is no, what, why? What do you mean? Like, what does this mean? What's it look like? And what if I mess it up? Because, you know, I'm powerful enough to do that. what if I say the wrong thing and all of a sudden I've messed up this whole healing that he wanted to do for me?
Right.
And God's like, well, that's not really how it works. I'm glad that you care that much, but no, that's not how this works.
But I think it definitely opened my eyes to know that, when we're at these services, or even when God says, go pray for this person.
Oh, he's ready. Yeah.
It opened my eyes to what he can do. Now, what he does do is not on me.
No, that's not.
What he can do. So when I see somebody who's, sick or struggling with something, and I'm like, definitely go to God.
Oh, yeah.
Why, even if he doesn't heal you, you have lost nothing by going to him.
Just ask.
And the worst that it can happen is he'll say no or not yet.
Right, and you already don't have the yes, so you might as well just go ask.
And if he does heal you,
cool.
There you go.
Heck yeah.
If he may say, well, no, not yet.
Yeah.
And not yet it feels like a no when it's not yet.
Oh yeah. Especially with something so personal as like sickness,
right?
And healing for anything,
right?
When you're told to wait, it's like, well, you might as well just tell me no.
Or it doesn't look like what you thought.
Right.
Yes, I can go and eat bread now and not get sick, but, I still have to be a good steward of the temple he gave me.
Absolutely.
And so possibly eating all the bread and pasta every day is not a good, wise decision.
And see, I keep telling myself, I'm like, all right, eat, have your moment, okay? Yeah. And then we're gonna chill.
I gave myself longer than I probably should have.
Yeah.
And literally at first, every time I ate bread, pasta, or anything with wheat, it felt like almost like an act of worship, because it was like, and not to downplay worship as to eating, but, but yeah. It was because it was a celebration of something he did. I could do this now, and I couldn't do it before. It'd be like, I wasn't going to take it for granted. I don't think the lame man that was healed ever looked at his legs and ever thought walking was, who's ever going to take walking for granted when you couldn't walk?
Yep.
And, I can walk. I'm going to walk.
Yeah.
And as far as, I can eat wheat, I'm going to eat some wheat.
That's right.
But then there comes yes, but you still need fruits and vegetables.
Like, oh yeah, those. The rabbit food. Got it.
Yeah. So, then there was this whole, okay, slow down, Cathy. Mm-hmm. And take it easy.
Yeah. I think remembering that, healing's not about us.
No.
Yeah, okay, he heals us because he loves us and because he wants to and because he can. But at the end of the day, him healing me, it's not about me.
No. It's what he's showing through you.
Exactly. And so that I can go be like, hey, God healed me and he can do the same for you.
Right.
Let's ask and see what he says.
Right.
I
totally believe that he didn't heal me just because I deserved it. He healed me to show others that he can.
And that's the thing, is kind of like what we were saying before. Like, I know that him healing you affected me, right, and affected me to be able God. To go say, okay, well, God told me to ask healing for this chronic illness that I've had for like 10 years, and that makes no sense. But here I am, because you were one of the first people that I went to, and I said, so God kind of said this morning, and I don't know what to do. And you're like, well, it sounds like you need to go be obedient. And I was like, gotcha, thanks. I'll let you know what happened.
Oh, well, it wasn't that simple either. Then you're like, then you're like, oh, yeah, but this is scary, because what if I'm wrong?
Right. I'm like, what do I do? I'm like, who do I go to? What do I say? And God was like, nah, I got you.
Yeah, you'll know.
I'm going to tell you what to say. And like, the whole point of this podcast is it's about him.
Right.
That any kind of healing, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, anything.
Revelation says, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb
and the word of our testimony.
The blood of the Lamb cleanses and restores and redeems the testimony. There's so many times that, you're going through something. Satan's strategy is to make you feel alone in it.
Absolutely.
You're the only one.
Yeah.
And it's a testimony from somebody else who has walked something similar.
Yeah.
So that well, God did that for them. He can.
He can.
And,
period.
Yeah. I wouldn't have even thought about what God could heal for me. Because I'm a mom. I'm thinking of my kids. I'm thinking of, and I remember a few months before that, my pastor had talked about his brother had been healed of a dairy allergy or a dairy lactose intolerance.
Oh, wow.
And
I didn't know that.
He said, it'd been a few years ago. He says, yeah, he finally prayed for it. And when he was actually healed, he was drinking milkshakes and, because he hadn't been able to. He goes, but have you asked for that? And I was like, kind of, hey, God, would you heal? One of those, would you heal generic
I don't
things.
feel good. No.
But it wasn't, one of those, I'm naming it, claiming it. This is, because I didn't feel like that's what God wanted me to do at that moment. Mm-hmm. And even when he healed me, I didn't feel like I was supposed to be saying, God, please heal me. Mm-hmm. I was praying for my kids. If he had told me to go and ask for prayer for something, I would have, because I've gone and asked for prayer for other things. But I was, my mind was not on me at that moment. And so I feel actually, over since this has happened and it's been, 9-10 months now or whatever, it's kind of overwhelming in that he is using me as an example for anybody, because I don't ever feel like I've been this great example in things, I'm just, trudging my way through. Yep. I was a late in life Christian, I wasn't, truly saved till early 30s. Yeah. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm not sure I should be who anybody follows as an example, but it wasn't an example of something in me. It was an example of what he could do. Yeah. And if it's an example to the people that know me and love me and needed to see what he could do in someone close to them. Yeah. And so I'm never going to be like, I'm not really, I'll take whatever he's got for me at this point. Yep. If he wants to bring healing to my life, I'm all for it. Because not only, it's not about me.
That's right.
But I'm not going to deny any gift he has for me.
Right. Because him doing those things in you, he's going to shine that through you. And
it's people. Changed the way I even think about, it's changed my relationship with him. It's changed how
my entire being has changed. My outlook on ministry, the ministries that I thought I would never be called to, I'm stepping into this year. And this podcast, what?
A podcast?
What? Absolutely not.
Right.
But
a girl who didn't want to talk to people half the time,
Right. And then finally realizing, I'm like, I actually love talking to people. Yeah. I actually love being around people. Like, it makes me, like, genuinely, like, heck yeah, like, let's do it,
I like this. Yeah. I don't mind talking, and I'm not shy, but I also am introvert enough. I want to go and recharge with my books.
You'll recharge tonight, I'm sure. But yeah, there was just a whole shift in my being and the way my mind works. Like, I remember who I was. Yeah. And like, I loved Jesus. I did ministry and I was doing all the things I was supposed to do, but I was a different woman then. Yeah. And it
shifts something deep inside.
I can't even go back to that mindset, because I tried. I was like, okay, well, what was I like? Well, what did I think? I can't. I don't remember. Yeah. I legitimately do not remember.
I do. I remember before, and I remember thinking, all these little things God can't take care of because he's, it's not a conscious, he's not taking care of me type thought. Right. It's it's after you're healed. You think he took care of something, how many other things has he taken care of that I didn't even know?
Oh, wow, yeah.
How many things has Satan tried to throw at me that he's kept me from? How many, how many times is, I'm seeing the worst and he's seeing what's going to happen from it? Wow. So it shifts your foundation a little of, you don't have these, we're America. We don't see these mass healings the way, we hear about them. Yep. We see them sometimes on social media, big events or whatever. But we don't, we're not seeing what the Bible says we could see.
Oh, yeah.
And now I believe we can.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm yes.
A part of me being, an American Christian where, we have very westernized and we haven't, we have some great, wonderful people who've been to these third world countries and seen these amazing things. And I can understand why they would come back and be frustrated because it's not happening here.
Yep.
But now I believe it can and it will.
Yeah.
I believe, something little like, a gluten allergy, yeah. If he can do that with, you first in a, boom, then what else can he do? And how will he do it? And, I know it's going to do it. I know we're going to see it. And I know it's going to
And he wants us to be a part of it.
Yes. And and I think I've seen an increase since I was healed of healings.
It's like bam, 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 bam.
Yeah. I'm seeing, things I never heard of before. I'm seeing people getting healed or people coming to me going, you had a healing experience too?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what happened. And
you're like,
and they're like, I never talk about this because people don't believe it.
Oh, wow.
I've had at least twice that's happened to me.
Really?
And, one of they're afraid to say God did this because they don't want to seem like they're crazy. Or because, there are even denominations and churches that God doesn't do that anymore. But God is doing that.
He's doing it now.
And he's increasing it.
Yes.
He's increasing it in America. And I want to be a part of it. I want to see it. And I want to know, if what he did at a foundational shift in me, what all these healings, what's that going to shift
in the church
and in this country?
Yeah.
And it's, yeah. It was a gluten allergy. It wasn't like it was life threatening or,
it was whatever. Couldn't eat Wonder Bread.
It was annoying and the food wasn't as good.
Right. It was bland and boring and whatever.
Yeah. But then, if he can do something like that, what else has he got planned? Because I believe his spirit is going to move some crazy things and it's coming like I don't want to see a wind. I'm saying it's going to be like a tornado and it's going
dope.
I see more of like an avalanche or a flood. It's just going to sweep. And, you can say, I don't believe that. I believe it ceased. But you show me in the Bible where Jesus wasn't healing.
Right.
Where he didn't touch who God told him to touch and heal them.
Right.
And if he is the same today and tomorrow and forevermore, he can still do it.
Oh, yeah.
And, it saddens me when people say, well, I couldn't really tell anybody, but this is what happened.
That, I didn't know that. Like, you saying that just now is like the first time I'm hearing something like that. And that actually, it makes me like a little emotional.
And sad.
Because
kind of grieved about it because, man, there's people who need to heal that God healed you of something.
Yeah.
And you're not like openly confessing, hey, God did this.
Right. And the thought of the enemy coming in and taking away the joy of testimony.
Right.
And the joy of saying, look what God did.
Right.
And look what he can do. And I want to share that with you. And then
and I don't know if he did it with you, but he did it with me when I was first healed. He was like, do you want to tell people? Mm-hmm. Do you really want to tell people?
It took me a week.
It took me longer than that for some of the people in my life.
Yeah.
Because, and literally, I didn't even tell a couple. I was like, I'm just not going to tell them because they haven't, they're not believers, so they're not going to get it. Or, it took me longer than that to actually talk that, hey, God healed this in me because either they're going to think I'm crazy and I have to be okay with that.
Yeah. And there has to be
yeah. Well, it is what it is.
Right. I know what God did, so.
I was really kind of worried about people who are dealing with illness and how they would feel when I got healed.
I still struggle with that.
And they still have illness.
Yep.
I've definitely thought about that with my daughters.
Yep.
But they're still diabetic and I got healed of something silly. But I knew him healing me was a promise to them.
Yeah.
What he does, when he does it, how he does it, not up to me.
No, that's none of our business.
But, I knew it was a promise to them in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
That God's got them.
Yeah.
But, other people who have chronic illnesses and they're fighting so valiantly and God hasn't done anything in their lives, with this illness to heal it, to take it away. I can't say he's not working because I'm watching him do great things through people who are super sick. Mm-hmm. And I was, a little bit afraid of, is it going to bother them?
Yep.
Because I don't feel like I'm more special.
No.
You know,
I'm still kind of like, oh, okay, and we did this because why?
yeah, I look at, the beautiful woman that passed away, that was the sweetest, that passed away of cancer, that was the sweetest woman in the world, that lifted, and brightened whole rooms when she walked in, and testified about Jesus at the clothing closet. And, and I sit there and think, he healed me of something simple, and she just wanted to be healed. But I think what she wanted more was, whatever Jesus wanted for her, because she loved him that much.
Yeah.
And so I didn't, a part of me even to tell my church was kind of like, I've got people in my church that are struggling and sick and suffering. And yet every single one of them, including her, was celebrating with me.
Yeah.
And because they knew God had done something. And, I didn't feel worthy of it, but he is.
He is.
Yeah.
And that's what.
I was almost embarrassed. Like, why did he do this for me? I struggle in this, and I think of all my faults, and why would he do this for me? And
I'm like, I struggle with this, and I have this issue, and this issue, and this issue. I'm pretty sure I yelled at this person right before I got healed. And
I was arguing with God, okay? And saying, just make them go get prayer, God. Come on, do something.
Right.
And, I was, frustrated.
Yeah. And
that tells you perfectly it's not about us.
And that's the thing is it's not.
No.
And I think I've said this a few times. I 100% believe that God's will is healing.
Yeah.
Now, what timing that is, that's not up to me.
Yeah.
And that's not for me to even think about. Because
for my daughter with her foot injury, it has been very slow. It has been setbacks. It has been doctors and surgeons, and it's months.
Right.
When you think he could just touch her foot and it would heal.
Yep.
But he's doing this for his purposes.
Absolutely.
And I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, well, God just touched them with this cosmic little finger and they were healed. I don't feel worthy of having received the healing, but he loves me enough that he thinks I'm worthy of it. That, I'm not more worthy than anybody who hasn't been healed.
No.
But I don't get to decide what his plans are.
No.
I don't get to decide, it's the whole tapestry. We see the back of the tapestry with the, snags and the knots, and it doesn't make any sense. And in the front is a beautiful masterpiece.
Yeah.
And I don't get to decide what the front looks like based on the messed up back.
Right. And there's no one that can convince me that his will is not healing, whether that is earth side or the next side.
Right.
Either way, you're getting healed.
Glorified bodies will be healed.
Exactly. So either way, you get healed.
Yeah.
And as far as getting healed or not getting healed, when we want to or how we want it to look like, there is no condemnation.
Yeah.
In Christ Jesus. Period.
And
at all.
Like I said earlier, healed of one thing doesn't mean there isn't other things.
No.
And
I still got back issues. I still got lots of stuff.
Honestly, the physical healing is wonderful, with being able to eat bread or whatever.
Yeah,
hey, that's great.
Like that was just surface for me.
But I've had to walk through a lot of mental stuff.
Oh,
and
whoa, yes.
A lot of emotional stuff.
Yep.
And that healing was much, much more challenging to get through.
Oh, yeah.
But in a way, it was more rewarding.
Yep.
In a way, walking through that, the lessons that came from that were, much more important than whether I can eat bread or not.
Right. Like, forget, like, whatever. Bread. Like, at the end of the day, honestly, like, whatever.
It's bread.
Yeah. But being in the fire and walking with him while you're in the fire.
I would much rather, like the beginning of the program, talking about getting, the healing of, getting my joy back and walking through this hard time. That to me is much, I've learned a lot more lessons than the fact that I can eat bread.
Right.
Like
that's just a token. That's just a bonus.
That's wonderful, and I do like bread, but I would much rather have peace in my heart and joy than the ability to eat bread if you asked me to choose.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the ability to eat bread, hey, there's thousands of different things in this world I can eat. You know, there's only one way to have the peace and the joy and the strength that God gives. You know, that's through him. It's not, I'd rather have that and than live in a mental mess.
Yep.
And never be able to eat bread.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I mean, there's something about Jesus that no food will ever take the place of.
Right. And that's where the real work starts.
Yeah.
And that's where the real healing, you know, begins, is when...
And I don't know if this happened to you, but there becomes a shift then, even, you know, you walk through all this stuff with God, and then he heals you of something physical, and you realize how much he can do more in the emotional and in the spiritual, and you know, and sometimes that's when the work starts, because then you realize,
Lord,
I haven't,
yes.
but you know, you realize, you know, he's been healing.
Yeah.
You know, he's been
doing this whole time.
Yeah. He's been healing as you know, dealt, you know, with learning about boundaries or dealing with, you know,
he's healing these things,
trauma from the past.
Yes.
He's been working with you and walking with you and healing it. And even now there'll be times I'm like, you know, in a worship service, and something I don't even realize has been weighing on me, and it's like God just took that.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, cool.
Thank you.
You know, and it was something that I didn't even realize was bugging me.
Yeah.
You know, but subconsciously it would cross my mind, and it would kind of, I'd be like, okay, pray about it and go on, and you know, and then it's like God just took that away. You know, whether it be a forgiveness issue or whether it be, I mean, I've watched him restore relationships that I never thought would be restored.
Yeah.
You know, so if he's been working on healing long before I was aware of it.
Oh, yeah.
And long before anything physical happened.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, those are much more impressive than just a gluten allergy, or, you know, not to diminish anything.
Like, it's dope.
But, you know, to watch what my stepdaughter went through for years and watch what God is doing in her now, you know, to coming out of a situation that was abusive and that was, you know, dangerous.
Yep.
And where the statistics said she would never have healthy relationships the way she does, or
healthy marriage.
And she has a healthy marriage, and she has one child and one on the way. And God is using
she's doing ministry.
Yeah. And God is planning to use her past to jump her in to help other girls.
Yeah.
You know, that are in dangerous, abusive situations. And I'm sitting here thinking, that healing right there. I've been watching him heal for years. Yep. I think maybe we don't see the healing as what it really is. We think it's got to be, this person is just, the cancer's gone. Well,
awesome.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. You know, but has he healed, you know, trauma? Yeah. You know, has he healed the spiritual abuse you may have taken when you were young? Because I've seen that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And that causes damage for years and years, and people don't come back from it.
Right.
To God.
Right.
You know, has he healed, you know, restored a marriage?
Oh, yeah.
You know, he restored mine, and I didn't even realize that was a healing that was much more impressive as far as me personally.
I wasn't even like in the full circle of that when all of that was happening. Right. But to watch you guys do ministry together, and even seeing you guys just follow the Lord together, it literally makes me emotional. Yeah. Just because
it was I can honestly say, having been through a lot, that was one of the darkest times that I've ever been through. And I've talked about this a few times, so I don't mind sharing it. I mean, we were having struggles at our church. We were having struggles in our family. Yep. And my husband walked away. Yep. And it was kind of like the song Slow Fade. At first, he was at church, but he wasn't really there. Yep. His heart was not in it. And then eventually he just stopped. Yep. He stopped coming. He stopped coming for months. And it didn't matter. Right. That, you know, his little girl was sobbing because she wanted daddy to come to church. Yep. And I, blatantly honest, handled it all wrong. because it was a fear, you know. You're like,
oh wow, yeah.
You know, we came to Christ late, and we came to Christ together.
Yeah.
But we had built our family on this, and we had, you know, made a lot of mistakes trying to, you know, as baby Christians and learning who we were, and we had this fear I had this fear of, if he's not walking with Christ with me, I don't know how to do that. And so I tried every way possible to get him to be who God, I thought he was supposed to be, who you know, told me you know, my husband was supposed to be,
right,
and made everything worse. You know, the frustration, the anger, you know, pushing, the trying to rationalize as much as I could, and I got called out on it.
Oh wow.
I got called out on it by a visiting evangelist that came to the church. He never met me before.
Don't you love those?
He didn't know me at all. Had never been in our church before.
Wow.
And he, during an altar call, pulled me forward. And he blatantly said, ironically, my husband was at church that day. I think my daughter was singing a special or something.
Oh, okay.
And so he had come.
Yeah.
And he blatantly told me, you were pushing, and that's not what you're supposed to be doing. And he told me, he goes, you know, and I don't know if I can remember the exact words he said, so I don't want to completely misquote him, but I'll give you the gist. I mean, he says, if you are not battling in the Spirit, and you're not battling every day, if you are not praying in the Spirit and giving it to God, he goes, you know, he didn't give you this, you know, he didn't fill you with the Holy Spirit as a gift. He gave it to you to use, to exercise it every day.
Wow.
And he says, and if you don't, nothing's going to change. He goes, you start to do that. He goes, you will see God intervene and intercede like you have never seen before. And if you learn to do that, you'll never struggle again. And
wow.
Yeah, I was just,
I would have like,
literally, that's what I was like, huh? Because yeah, you don't think about it. You don't, you have a misconception of this beautiful gift that God gives, and you don't see this is also a weapon. This is a tool. Fight.
This is a weapon. Yep.
Yeah. And
this is how I battle.
I had to do nothing. I had to completely back off of everything and start praying and just let him handle it all. Wow.